Rise to support the Local Jobs First Amendment Bill of 2025. In doing so, I'd like to acknowledge the Minister for Industry, Advanced Manufacturing and Creative Industries, his office, his team and department for their work in bringing this bill to the House, and all other relevant ministers involved. Acting Speaker, we know fundamentally the important role job creation plays in not only the state's prosperity, but the prosperity of every household, family and individual, because a job is more than just a paycheck. It provides a sense of purpose, achievement and a certainty for every family. The foundations of helping people to aspire and meet the cost of living needs is the essential role of jobs that very much underpin the socio-economic well-being and prosperity of our entire community. Providing safe, secure and good paid jobs for people of all backgrounds and experiences is at the heart of any resilient, vibrant community. And that's why since 2014 we've continued to place job creation, skills and training and learning at the heart of our economic management approach. Driven by our Big Build infrastructure program, our Local Jobs First Act and our ongoing investment into frontline services, including education, health and community services, Victoria is leading all other states in terms of real economic growth, which has remained the case over the last decade. We've added over $138 billion in value and worth to the Victorian economy. Gross state product, GSP, has increased by 1.5% over the 23-24 period. The economy is now 11.5% larger than prior to the pandemic. Our economy has grown by over 9% in the last 2 years alone, according to Deloitte. We've continued to generate record numbers of jobs, almost 900,000 jobs created since 2014. We've continued to keep downward pressure on unemployment rates. We've supported our business and industries to grow, with more than 113,000 new businesses having been created and opened across Victoria in the last 5 years, an 18% growth, higher than any other state in percentage terms. Business investment has grown by 30% since 2021, higher than the largest percentage growth of any state and reaching record high shares of overall economic activity. Business investment has grown by 3.7% over the year to December 24, compared to negative 0.1 nationally. When it comes to the approval and construction of new homes, we've also supported over 61,000 new home completions as of January 25, an 8.8% increase year on year, Acting Speaker. And we've continued to lead the nation when it comes to home approvals. Record numbers of people also continue, importantly, to want to move and visit and live in Victoria, with Victoria being the most livable city in Australia and 11.9 million international visitors coming to Victoria, record levels, Speaker. So across many of our economic, financial and socio-economic metrics, and despite international economic trade and inflationary challenges, global geopolitical tensions and international uncertainty, the reality is, Acting Speaker, that Victoria's economy is continuing to grow with a positive, stable and resilient manner, all underpinned by our work to create, sustain and support more jobs for more Victorians. And many of these jobs have been directly and indirectly created thanks to our Big Build infrastructure pipeline and our historic Local Jobs First Act. Speaker, the Local Jobs First Act is Australia's longest-standing industry participation legislation, has been supporting Victorian businesses and workers for over 20 years, a legacy of the Brumby government. Since coming to office, we've also continued to strengthen the Act, including via the new Local Jobs First Act, which we subsequently moved, which established the role of the Local Jobs First Commissioners, strengthening strategic project listings, with all projects valued at $50 million or above automatically classified as strategic projects, as well as any other projects agreed to by government. Opportunities are available to local industry and workers to contribute to high-value goods, services and construction projects. We've strengthened the Act to mandate minimum local content on all major projects, including a 90% minimum on construction projects, so that local jobs and businesses grow thanks to these investments. We've enshrined our flagship major project skills guarantee, requiring a percentage of work on these projects that must go to local apprentices, trainees and cadets. And the major project skill guarantee applies to all Victorian Government construction projects valued at or above $20 million. And the skills guarantee projects include a requirement for contractor to deliver at least 10% of labour hours using apprentices, trainees and cadets. And when combined, since 2014, Local Jobs First has been applied to 3,185 projects worth over $197 billion in government investment, ensuring that Victorian businesses and workers and apprentices, trainees and cadets benefit from this procurement. Additionally, Local Jobs First local content requirements have been set on 382 strategic projects, supporting more than 60,000 jobs and enabling local companies to compete for both large and small government contracts on Victoria's major largest projects. And And since its introduction, the Major Project Skills Guarantee has been applied to 480 projects with over $176 billion and supported almost 20,000 apprentices, trainees and cadets to secure employment on Victoria's largest construction projects. And of course, some of these major projects of statewide significance that have benefited businesses and workers include, of course, the Metro Rail Tunnel, the Melbourne Airport Rail Project, Level Crossing Removal Program, the Westgate Tunnel, North East Link, the Western Ring Road M80 upgrade, the Mickleham Road upgrades, the Austin Hospital redevelopment, Northern Hospital upgrade, the new Footscray Hospital, Origin Youth Mental Health Project, State Library redevelopment, Melbourne Convention Centre expansion, Melbourne Arts Precinct expansion, Melbourne Park Rod Laver Arena redevelopment, the State Netball Hockey Centre in Parkville down the road from my area, Acting Speaker, the Werribee Open Range Zoo expansion to see the new elephants, the Fitzroy Gasworks project, the new Victoria Police Centre and so much more. At a local level across Marybeck, my community, we have numerous projects that have also benefited from these measures, including the upfield level crossing removal through Coburg, the $115 million Brunswick Tram Terminal redevelopment, $22.5 million Coburg Special School project, the $21 million Strathmore Secondary College Technology and Arts Hub, the $20 million Newlands Primary School redevelopment, Victoria's Avenue Housing Project, and again, many other projects that are benefiting my community economically and socially locally. However, with the Act having been amended 7 years ago, this bill will continue to strengthen the intent, operation and oversight to further maximise those opportunities for local industries and jobs and workers to benefit. In summary, the bill will clarify and strengthen the mechanisms that support compliance with and enforcement of local industry development plan commitments, provide the Local Jobs First Commissioner with additional investigation and reporting powers, including a power to conduct site inspections with notice, introduce stronger consequences for non-compliance with local industry development plans and the Act, including the deprioritisation scheme, civil penalties for non-compliance with the Commissioner's information gathering powers, including new site inspection power and contingent payment mechanisms for agencies to include in appropriate contracts. It will clarify and strengthen existing policies and procedures under the Act and incorporate additional local jobs first objectives and explicitly allow the Minister responsible for the Act to set requirements to use a specified amount of locally produced uniform and personal protective equipment, PPE equipment, on strategic projects. And when combined, the bill, of course, will also acquit our government's 22 election commitment and ensure that Local Jobs First is fit for purpose and continues to meet contemporary expectations. But it's a bill that also builds on our broader whole-of-government approach to creating more opportunities for Victorian businesses, workers and apprentices. I just want to point out, Acting Speaker, you'll appreciate this. I'm proud to be part of the Legislative Assembly Economics and Infrastructure Committee, which is now undertaking a new inquiry into student pathways and in-demand industries. Over 1.4 million workers will be needed in Victoria by 2034, and 85% of those workers and jobs will need post-secondary qualifications, and the inquiry is going to be exploring how we can do better in that space. And that's why free TAFE is so important. We've been committed to bringing back free TAFE, which has been at the foundations of this approach. 80 free TAFE courses. Over 200,000 Victorians have accessed free TAFE, saving students on average $3,000 per course. But of course, this is in stark contrast to the Liberals, who closed and undertook record cuts when it came to TAFE. They ripped $1 billion out of the TAFE system. The Liberals shut 22 TAFE campuses. The Liberals sacked 2,000 and over TAFE teachers. And at the last federal election, don't forget, it was Peter Dutton and Senator Sarah Henderson who came out and said they oppose free TAFE. And no wonder why they lost the federal election. In droves, Speaker, people turned away from the Liberals because of that position. And on local projects, it's also because of our work through local jobs that we're creating more jobs. And again, this is in stark contrast. This is in stark contrast to the Liberals. We have approved 382 strategic projects through the strategic project pipeline and 480 projects through the skills guarantee. The Liberals, in contrast, when they were in office between 2010 and 2014, approved how many projects? 8 projects. 8 projects, and they left office with Victoria having a record high unemployment rate at the time of almost 7%, but notwithstanding that, they've come into this chamber to move a reasoned amendment to essentially pause and defer further consideration of this bill, which I can assure the opposition, if that were to be the case, would make things worse off for Victorian businesses and workers, providing fewer opportunities for Victorian businesses and workers to benefit from our local major projects, because we know the Liberals are only concerned about one job, and that job is the job of the Leader of the opposition. They've turned over that many leaders of the opposition, but they're also creating more jobs in the legal system with the amount of court cases, subpoenas and hearings that are taking place. That's the way they're generating jobs. We're generating jobs on the grounds through the grassroots communities.
I call